Hello guys, how's it going? Prussian Sage here. And in light of recent events in both basically the news and in culture, I thought it best to essentially give an input that I think might be lacking in the entire conversation. I am going to concern myself, most importantly, or of most import, on an issue that is bothering on a whole lot of people, because even if we are to make sense of the question of masculinity or even toxic masculinity as portrayed by the art or essentially showpiece, the commercial ad put out by the company Procter and Gamble. We must start by defining key points or key terms. The first essentially being what a man is. Now, a lot of people have different definitions for this. There are definitions of stoicism, there are definitions of emotional competence, or at least emotional health. But it seems to me that even through upbringing, even through our childhood, men are strictly concerned with action. If I act better, I will be better. If only I do things adequately, I will essentially attain that sense of personal worth. And strangely enough, I don't think it's the end result of wanting to fit in. I think it's born out of love. I think it's born out of a deep sense of duty, out of care, out of a strong desire to guard and protect things. And out of this desire can come good things, and out of it can come bad things. Because men, as we are human, are imperfect. And we are subject to a lot of the imperfections that come with being human, including hubris and the feeling that perhaps we might have all the answers to extremely pressing questions. A lot of this is exemplified in our childhoods. We grew up loving all and wanting to be loved by all, at least the vast general swath of men. Speaking for myself, at least, I grew up believing a strong sense of justice. I wanted to help the downtrodden at all costs. I thought that if I did right, that the end result of acting properly was not only a vindication, but a sound mind and a good reputation both amongst my peers and amongst my in-group, being my family as well as being my group of friends. But I've come to realize over time that that's not the case. Because in the course of going through what I went through, both in high school and in grade school, I came to realize that moral virtue cannot be ascribed on a broad basis, on the basis of shared values, at least not as a general yardstick. And by yardstick, I mean not as a general rule that we should estimate other people's imminent actions. We should not hope that people will simply be good because we think they ought to. And essentially, what that leads us to, at least some of us, is to become jaded. Because then we believe, well, why in any way, shape, or form am I being as decent as I possibly can and it's not being reciprocated? And essentially, what this drives a whole lot of us to do, at least having gotten our first taste of the strong elixir, let's say, of reality, we decide that I will work hard and I will earn my keep. And when I earn my keep through hard work, I will restore both the emotional and moral balance that I found lacking in myself and in the world. And I would have done something that I am proud of. And in as much as I know that men don't simply do things in order to please people, that there's genuinely a drive there to do things because they are good. There is a certain degree of honor and of principle. But I think, or at least, however, I think that the truth is that men generally want to be accepted. Because nobody wants to be alone. No one wants to be left out. No one wants to be even singled out. So, men work brutally hard. Men see the lives of those who came before them and envy the good things, or at least the things that they fundamentally believe are genuinely positive, or at least genuinely admirable about the strong figures in their lives. And they hope that that would be a guiding light to help them through difficult times in the world. And in as much, or rather, regardless of whether or not this could be good or bad in terms of the traits that they pick up from people who are much older than them, the truth fundamentally at its core, I think, is that men genuinely want to find a meaning in life. And they genuinely want to care for things. And sadly enough, sometimes the opposite of care can be hatred. Immense hatred. Love to an extreme will swing in the opposite direction of hatred to an extreme, if not adequately balanced and mediated. And if you grew up like I did in the 1990s, there were a lot of fathers who essentially, at least in those homes that were intact or slightly intact, regardless of how dysfunctional they might have been, you grew up with fathers that were as stoic as mountains. You know, they had a sense of resilience and duty, and we loved them for that. And we learned the lessons adequately that they tried to teach us. And as a result of that, we took those lessons into the world and tried to make the best of ourselves for at least the foreseeable future, for our own well-being. Because society measures men by what they do. Society measures women essentially by who they are. We come into this world capable, and striving for comfort, or at least the comfort of meaning. Women come into this world with ascribed meaning and strive for practical meaning through expression. It's a very interesting balance when you think of it, or at least a very interesting compliment if you think of it. And through these difficulties that we face as men, going about our daily lives and trying to eke out a living for ourselves and trying to be the best that we can be, to carve out some meaning for ourselves in life, and to a large degree to carve out some meaning for those that we care about, and to fulfill the ideal of that tranquil love that we hold for the world, and hope that perhaps if we can act upstandingly enough, then everything around us, including even in our own lives, will fall into order. At our core, we are beings of expression. And like I said, in the course of living our lives, in some cases we meet obstacles. Which brings me, at least, to the question of the Gillette ad. Extolling the vices of masculinity, ignoring the virtues, ignoring even the fact that perhaps the vices that Gillette actually used to make those commercials of deep ideologically leaning value, let's say, were actually the end product of, as recorded historically, male genius. And men invented those things partially to fulfill society's needs, but I think more, or much more deeply than that, to fulfill an innate sense of value within themselves, to do something that they were proud of, and to give their lives meaning. And they didn't simply live for nothing. And it's quite saddening, honestly, to see companies run by men shitting on the keepsake of other men, of our grandfathers, of our great-grandfathers. But to that I say, take heart. Be patient. And be assertively stoic. All things have their time and their season. And even hatred, in time, will become joy. Such is the fleeting nature of the human conscience. And inasmuch as these things do come and go, and momentary pain does cause people to desperately want to change their circumstances. It has been my experience in life that sometimes the road less traveled can indeed hold all the answers. Though you may feel downtrodden, miserable, and to a large degree, even probably in some corners of the world right now, suicidal. I want to say to you that, and I desperately want you to take this to heart, as men, you are not an accident. You are not some freak of nature. Societally speaking, and in response to the increasing tribalization of the social landscape, it is difficult to know where one stands, even as a man, when you are called toxic whilst at the same time beckoned to be allies to rather hubristic totalitarian movements. It's quite strange, actually. Quite self-defeating in a way for those who purvey those perverse ideas. Socrates said that the end goal of life, at least, is to ensure that one is adequately in tune with self-examination. In other words, act as you wish to seem. And what does that mean? It means examine closely and examine properly the workings of your own mind. And why am I bringing up an issue of self-examination? Because in times of heated debates like this, sometimes self-examination happens for all the wrong reasons. People want to scrutinize to see if there is something wrong with them. Aristotle said, and probably one of my most cherished quotes, that the end goal of action, or at least of repetitive, clear, consistent and concise action, is habit. In other words, or at least as it was directly purveyed in his works, he said that we are what we do repeatedly. Excellence is not a moment, it is a habit. As men, we are purveyors of numerous skill sets, differing skill sets. And a lot of those skill sets that we possess are usually the beacons through which we project our best into the world. So if we're gamers, we want to be the best gamers, or at least we want to be adequately revered for being excellent gamers. Lao Tzu said that if you constantly bank solely on the ability of others to treat you well, you will always be their prisoner. When you are content in who you are and in what you stand for, the universe not only surrenders to you, but the world in itself comes to respect you. It's funny. If you want to be accepted by people, you must first learn to let them go. And live your life. And let it play out. The reputation you build is the full measure of what you represent, and to a certain extent what you provide, be it material or immaterial. You are the billboard for the values you represent. And why am I saying all of this? Well, you're not an accident. You are not worthless. You are not toxic. You are not the end result of decades of patriarchal male privilege or even white male privilege. That's all just balderdash, isn't it? Good Lord. I mean, frankly, it's very ugly and very obscene to say to people. I believe firmly in my heart that the farmer in deep Western Africa is no better in worth as a human being than a miner in Michigan. They're all people. And frankly, both black and white, we have a lot more in common with each other than we have with, I would say, these perverse, discontented ideologues. Before any of you were born, and I mean you watching this right now, you were thought of, and you were loved. All of the men I mentioned, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, Washington, Nietzsche, they all had you in mind. And all through their works, you can see the same strain of thought running through. In all that you do, exercise the strength of reason. Regardless of what form, what school of thought it might be, the strain of universality reigns supreme. It remains the same, absolute and unblemished, which is the promise of a decent life through understanding. If knowledge is a treasure, and practice is the key to it, What am I trying to say in all of this, actually? I'm trying to say, be yourself. Boy, oh boy, be yourself. Be the best version of you that you can be. Because those who matter don't mind. And those who mind don't matter. Besides, everyone else is taken. It doesn't matter how hardly you cling to feminism or feminist ideology, you will never be a woman. You weren't born a woman. You were born a dude. And you have your own charm to you. You have your own unique shroud and aura that makes you that peculiar strain of cosmic wonder that has graced the world with its presence for as long as you've lived. And I'm saying to every single race, color, creed, or even age bracket out there, pay no attention to these losers, because that's what they are. Their demonization shows that even their anger itself is near its own end. They will consume themselves before they even consume you. You are not an accident. You were thought of, and you are loved. All of these historical figures that I mentioned, that desperately, even to the point of giving up their own lives, even Christ as well, did not deem you a non-entity. They thought of you as a proud manifestation of the best humanity can offer to the world, which is a living soul, a living being. You can't contemplate life if you're dead, and as such, the purpose of life is living. Feels good to be alive, honestly. So to you I say, be you. Be true to yourself. Be cool. Have skill. Be real with both yourself and with people. Be honest. Let the world fall. Apologize for nothing that you've had to go through. Be unapologetically you. And if you receive negative feedback from the world that is actually valuable, respond to positive criticism, to honorable criticism. To dishonorable criticism, do not reward it with time. Do not reward malice with attention. If you want your indignation heard, be assertive. Otherwise, waste no time with non-entities. They are impediments on the way to a good life, and frankly, to the truth, because the aim of belief is truth. Stay strong and stay in good cheer. And as always, stay healthy, and frankly, I love you. I love each and every one of you. And it is great, in as much as it is in a difficult time now in the world. It is indeed fascinating to be engaging each and every single one of these really trying issues with each and every one of you. Words are indeed an elixir to the soul. It even has me talking lost in thought. But anyway, take care. Good night. Good luck. And ignore the buggers.